Small business is about courage, risk-taking, independence, and we small business owners are survivors. Everybody has an idea for a business, but how do you take that idea from mind to market? This is the place to learn.
Small Business School with Hattie Bryant.
It's a new kind of school. Together we'll learn about business from the inside out, from the people who've done it. We'll meet the men and women who are today's pioneers and quiet heroes. Their lives are the textbooks. Our classroom is the world. Hi, I'm Hattie Bryant, and welcome to Small Business School Goes to Main Street. Several of the programs this season will come to you from rejuvenated historic business districts. Since 1980, the National Trust for Historic Preservation's Main Street programs have generated billions of dollars in physical improvements, tens of thousands of new businesses, and hundreds of thousands of net new jobs. Much of the work to revitalize business districts is being done by small business owners. Bill and Joan Keller left an upscale mall to buy a building in San Diego's historic Gaslamp quarter. They'll tell you why and how they made the big change. Also, you'll hear from our viewers and direct marketer Parveen Salehi. Every week on Small Business School, we take you inside our master class. This is not a class like you take in school. This is a real-life classroom where small business owners explain how they do what they do. Step into the Small Business Master Class with Bill and Joan Keller.
Like so many people of my age, I started traveling with the family in the Ford station wagon, cross country, staying in travel lodges, camping. Cut my travel teeth as a kid with my parents.
Joan and Bill Keller love to travel.
I adore it. I love it.
And they're sharing that love with their customers. They've been sending them around the world for over 20 years. Bill and Joan own Le Travel Store.
Under your shirt? Under your clothing.
All right.
When I met Bill, he was at Grossmont College, and he was working out of a briefcase selling charter flights. He was in college, and I was at the same school when we met.
Well, there weren't a lot of direct opportunities that I could see in pursuing, my Chinese studies major that I was finishing up with. But while I was at the University of California at San Diego, I had run a travel office on campus, sending people to Europe.
Well, he drew me into the business days after we met, when he had me sitting on the lawn stamping his name and address on brochures for him to hand out.
Oh, he recruited you immediately.
Right away. Sucked me in. Well, I'll tell you, the first thing Bill said to me when we met, we had established that we both had traveled in Europe and we loved the experience. And Bill said, "Do you want to go to South America?" And I said, "Well, sure." What else is the answer to a question like that? We set off our very first trip together. This was before we were married. South from San Diego, taking buses and trains and hitchhiking through Mexico. And it was a great adventure and a wonderful trip. In fact, we broke up on the road. And about a week later, checked into a hotel in Merida in the Yucatan Peninsula. And checking into the same hotel at the same time was Bill.
Joan and Bill started the business with $6,000. $3,000 came as wedding gifts, and another $3,000 was borrowed.
Family support was the key. We couldn't have gotten going without family support.
We've always been investors rather than consumers. We live moderately, and we like to take what we earn and reinvest it in growing.
When we started our business, she was working at a bank here, and I started selling flights.
When I was working at Home Federal Savings and Loan, a bank, I would work during the day, take the bus to the store we had opened, and work in the evening doing the accounting part.
And part of that was a cash flow situation too, right?
It was. I had to keep working with my regular income to support us.
She ended up joining us after a couple of months, but our specific goal was to sell 300 flights to Europe in the first year, and we sold 328. So we survived the first year, and our goal was to go for a couple of years, sell the business for $10,000, and travel around the world.
We were successful enough that either I had to come in full-time or we had to hire someone.
Can I help you get anything else?
Today, they have 12 employees, thousands of customers, this wonderful building, and they're still having fun.
First of all, we love diversity. I look at my staff and I like age diversity, I like ethnic diversity.
35 cents is your change.
I really like to mix it up. I like to have, pretty much equal men and women because everyone brings a different kind of energy to the sales floor. The most important thing is something that's kind of indefinable. We call it the spark. When I interview people to work here, I look in their eyes, and in the conversation, if they have that spark and that energy, along with the travel experience, I like retail experience when possible, and geographical knowledge. If I can see that spark, that's the person I hire.
Annette, how long have you been here at the travel store?
I've worked for 2 years at the travel store.
Le Travel Store.
I love the travel store, and I love working at the travel store.
Well, did you travel a lot before you came to work here?
Yes, I did. I've been to Europe and over in China. Took a cruise to China and Mexico, Canada. Been around quite a bit.
So what are some of the questions or problems that people want you to help them solve regarding their travel plans?
Well, if you've been to a certain country where they've been, they want to know where to go, how to use an ATM machine, and just all the practical information, or hotels. It's just like being a concierge almost. And when they leave, we say, send us a postcard.
Oh, do you
And
have
we
some
have
postcards?
travel tips from all over the world.
Rhonda says in Korea that she found there's something there that looks like hamburgers, but don't get tricked into eating it. It's dog.
And we even had one city in the country where they say, if you end up here, leave.
From Paris, France, heaven is where the lovers are French, the cars made in Germany, the food Mexican, the ice cream Italian, the girls from Oaxaca, the weather California.
From that earliest beginning to today, we identify our key customer, our target customer, as an independent international traveler. And the main thing there really is travel skills. It's being able to communicate, find food, accommodations, not just survive in a country, but really thrive in a foreign culture. In fact, this was kind of a funny sequence that we saw. We started in 1976, and our basic customer in Pacific Beach would pull their Volkswagen Bug or van up into our parking lot in the back. We'd look out the back window and see them come in. And what we found is after 8 years in that location, that same customer was now pulling up in their Volvo or their BMW.
Hey, prosperity.
Well, what had happened was that they had gone from being a student to, applying what they had learned in a career, and they had less time and more money. They had, however, many of those customers had begun traveling on the 2 or 3 month long trip to Europe on a tight budget, and liked that style of travel. They were still independent travelers, but they had again, with less time and more money, they were taking shorter trips and staying in nicer hotels. And so we had to adapt our business to that. And that's when we decided to move from the beach to downtown San Diego, to a very exciting project that was opening up to become the cornerstone of San Diego redevelopment, Horton Plaza, a regional shopping center in the center of town.
We had been a tenant at Horton Plaza for 10 years. And as we came up to the end of the lease, we either needed to renegotiate there or we needed to find a new location, which is a common experience as a retailer. Your location is so important. And when you come to the end of a lease cycle, you need to reinvent yourself. You need to find a new place to go. And I came to that period and calculated how much I had spent in lease payments at Horton Plaza, and realized I could own, it was $1 million. It was nearly $1 million in lease payments in 10 years. And I thought, for that, we could own a building. And I started shopping the neighborhood for a building that would work for us. It's a fairly narrow range of things that would be effective for us and that we could afford.
Moving out of a mall into the historic Gaslamp quarter was a big step for Bill and Joan.
We managed to get an SBA loan to purchase this 10,000 square foot building that we're in right now.
And we began to notice that things were becoming energized and then almost exploding in this neighborhood. And our timing, I think, was perfect. We came in and bought this building really before retail took hold, but close enough to the taking hold that we could survive.
It's coming out of Horton Plaza. That was sort of a 1980s environment. It was very expensive and kind of a theatrical environment. The kind of retail that had been growing in the early 1990s was sort of the warehouse type of store, the big box retailer. And I knew that we needed to communicate that we had more stuff at lower prices. So we wanted a warehouse effect, but I also wanted a really nice warehouse.
The design. Why is design important to you?
I have the sense that a lot of people are seeing us for the first time in this location. We have a lot of tourists coming through this area. People come through the front door and they form an impression fairly quickly of the business. And they make a decision about whether it's going to be a fun place to visit and should they continue or should they just turn around and go back.
It's the old first impression thing?
Oh man, that first impression is so important. And if people walk in and there is a sense of design, something interesting in the way the store is created and laid out, you're going to get a lot more people walking through. What people love about it is that connection to the past. It's this, being a turn of the century neighborhood, a 1907 building. I mean, this is really something quite different from a mall location or a strip mall.
What we've done here is increased our potential for revenue and for income. There is a little bit of backsliding. I mean, we took money that we had earned over the years and invested it in this building because we feel this building has much greater potential than our old location. We also feel that this kind of location, a downtown, on the street, historic neighborhood location, is the wave of the future. I think people are a little bit tired of malls, a little bit tired of seeing the same huge chain stores in San Diego that they see in Salt Lake, that they see in Denver.
This historic business district has new life because of cooperation between government and business people.
In California, we've seen increasing interest in the urban business districts, and San Diego is really on the cutting edge of that.
Keith Chilstrom is director of California's Main Street program.
And it started off with mostly the smaller communities in cities that were 50,000 population and under. And over the years, increasingly, the big cities are getting interested. San Diego's been designated as the second urban citywide Main Street program in the country.
Marcus Thompson is director of the City of San Diego's Office of Small Business.
People are suddenly in this town are beginning to realize that these districts have something to offer. The shopping mall, the strip center, they don't have the atmosphere. They don't have the sense of community.
Boy, this neighborhood has really taken off, and it's quite a phenomenon.
Bill has a leadership role in the Gaslamp Quarter Association.
The concept of the neighborhood is to keep some of the look of the turn of the century, basically 1890 to 1920. So we don't want sort of bizarre storefronts coming in. Busiest period of the week for us in this location at this time is late on Friday and Saturday nights. So we've had to, go where the crowds are, which is into the evening hours.
And this way, you can sleep in the morning.
Well, no, we usually get here in the morning too. We have to.
Oh, come on. Yeah, I can sleep in.
Well, maybe Sundays. That's about it.
Southern California-based Eagle Creek is La Travel Store's primary vendor. You can find every product manufactured by them in La Travel Store, and Joan and Bill work closely with them on product development.
The product that really made our business is the travel pack, and this is the current generation of that item. In fact, this company, Eagle Creek, is our best supplier, and when we were about 4 months in business, the founder of this business brought in his original version of this and showed it to us, and for the last 20 years we've been selling it ever since, and it accounts for a very high percentage of our sales in this business.
Did he bring in a handmade new product for you to look at?
Yes, it was an early version of this very product.
And that was 20-something years ago.
20-some odd years ago, that's right. And what it is, it's a soft luggage. You can carry it from a handle on top or a handle on the side, but then when you open it up here, pull out the back strap, the waist belt. See, all this stuff tucks away so that when you're traveling, flying on an airplane, traveling by train.
So if you check it, the straps don't get caught.
Right. So this converts into a backpack. When you have this tightened, the weight's actually on your hips.
It
is.
is.
Instead of down
Yes.
here. In fact, you have very little weight on your shoulders. We hear a lot from customers about features that they'd like to see on products and make suggestions to Eagle Creek. And Eagle Creek started with the baby boom generation who was traveling with the travel pack. And what we started seeing about 5 years ago was an increase in the upright wheeled luggage, starting with the company Travel Pro, and basically every other luggage manufacturer developed that sort of product. And what I suggested to Eagle Creek was that if they wanted to keep up with their baby boom generation customer, they better recognize that the customer is going from the backpack to the backache stage of their life and better catch up. And we saw the prototypes before it was developed, but they came up with this product, which is in fact a backpack. You can unzip the back panel, that folds down, you have back straps, but that is really not the main feature. It is wheeled luggage with inline skate wheels and a nifty handle system that pulls up. And this is what I took on my trip to Europe last year. In fact, as I was planning to go, I went through the thought process I'm sure a lot of guys my age are going to go through, which is, you know,
I'm getting old.
I'm not a wuss. I don't want to give up my backpack. You know, I don't need wheeled luggage. But then I thought, oh, what the heck? I'll go ahead and take it. And boy, was I pleased with it. It really was so easy getting around. We sit and talk with people often about this kind of store. And the first thing we tell people is figure out if you're really serious about this. Don't go into business unless you're really serious about it. And then I often advise people that our success is largely based on really connecting with that particular customer, that on-your-own overseas international traveler. And I think it's real important to be really good at something because you're competing with a lot of other people. In our case, we've got some very good camping and backpacking stores that sell the same products we sell. We've got some excellent bookstores. We have luggage stores, department stores. So we're in competition with people. And our competitive edge is really zeroing in on that on-your-own overseas traveler and providing something that they just cannot get elsewhere.
For Bill and Joan, some things have never changed and some things have never stayed the same. What hasn't changed is their focus on the independent international traveler. Yes, they'll help a customer who wants to go anywhere and in any way, but their focus is on that independent traveler. This has dictated their product mix, their location, the types of employees they hire, and even the feel of the space. When you go into the store, you feel it's independent, it's international, and it's travel. What has changed is the way they take care of these customers. They started by selling plane tickets. They added backpacks, then a full-blown travel agency, and a full line of travel products. They've been in 3 locations, a funky retail area, an upscale high-concept mall, and now their own historic building. What Bill and Joan know is what to change and what not to change. For sure, what hasn't changed is their customer, the independent international traveler. Even if you can't come to San Diego, if you're the type of person who wants to plan your own trip, you can visit Bill and Joan at latravelstore.com.
The business community loves our show. One owner says you're motivating, informative, and inspiring. Another calls us insightful. One says it does my soul good. Another thinks we are the true reality show. And we're called the best business educational show on television. Want to learn more? Join the thousands of small business owners who are making a difference and add your voice to our story. Visit us online at smallbusinessschool.org.
Can you talk about, you're not married to this person, you're a business partner. What are the problems with having a partner?
The problem that I see in other partners, and we've actually had in our relationship as well, is undervaluing the other person's contribution. You don't, you get so wrapped up in what you're giving, which is always your all, that you start to criticize and challenge one another about what the other person is giving, and it's just something to be aware of. I think the good part about working with a spouse, there are a couple of good parts, but one is that it's a partnership with love. So you have more of an incentive to work through those things and to appreciate that other person. Another good thing is that sometimes people's careers take them apart, and in our case, it cements us together. Everything we're involved in is together. Another thing that we've done in working together, and that is we each have our specific areas of responsibility and authority. You know, I have the final word in certain areas, and he has the final word in certain other areas.
Okay.
When it comes to obstacles, Joan says there are
There are
two.
things really. One is we call it unknown unknowns. We always budget for unknown unknowns, these things that are going to crop up that you aren't expecting. And the other thing is, I call it walking through walls, because there are so many situations, whether it's a key employee that suddenly leaves, a lease that has provisions you didn't originally understand. There are these things that stand in front of you and you just can't see any way over or around that hindrance. And what you have to do is just keep plowing ahead. And sometimes it feels like you're making no progress. You work as hard as you can and get nowhere, but you just never give up. You just walk through the wall. I mean, the wall is there. You just keep going till you're through it.
Would you do it again?
I would absolutely do it again. I look at the other choices in my life, and it's the thing I like about being in business for myself is it's a sense that the game is always in front of me. There's always challenges. There's threats to our survival every day. But I can manage it. I can figure out a strategy to try to work through this next phase of the business. And it's always a challenge. I think in particular, as a business that is constantly pushing ourselves, we're always reaching a little bit beyond our means, constantly doing that in business. Boy, as a business owner, I feel more like a navigator. I admire the voyage of Magellan, for example. How do you plot a course into the unknown and succeed at least as much as he did? Of course, he got killed in the Philippines. So, that there may be a lot more business lessons on that.
A lot of us get killed on the way.
That's right. But, you have to be prepared to sort of set off into the unknown and then figure out how to deal with situations. But it's really, it does have to be a long-term strategy, in my opinion. It's not something where you can go in and at least in our experience, we couldn't have done it for a couple of years. I think the act of creating the business is high on creativity, but in the long term, what really counts in business is persistence. I think that's the quality that you really need to have if you're going to succeed in business, because you're going to constantly be coming into problems, having obstacles, storms in the business, crises. In our case, the recession of the early 90s in San Diego was a big event, and we had to really rechart the course for the business. The plan we had was not working, and we had to come up with a new plan. So, I think that persistence and overcoming obstacles is really the key to long-term success of a business.
Would you do this again?
God, yes. Yeah, I do love it. When I worked at Home Federal, I've sometimes told the story that if I needed a typewriter, I'd type up a requisition and the typewriter would show up. And when you're in business for yourself, you have to consider where that money is coming from and is this going to generate more revenue? Is this going to justify itself? But there's something about having the game all in front of you. It's in your charge. You can make your own future, and it's inspiring and it's fun. And you know what? Our business outlived that one I used to work for, that big corporate business.
If you want to develop the type of customer loyalty Bill and Joan enjoy, direct marketer Parveen Salehi has some ideas that will help.
Well, something to take into consideration is the amount of time and effort that it takes you to get a customer in the first place. People don't realize what it is costing them to lose that customer and have to go out and get a new one. Something that I recommend to my current customers are being able to also leave some of that budget for loyalty programs. Retention of customers is something that's important. Being able to keep a relationship by mail, by phone. Everybody I know has received a newsletter, whether it's at home or at business, and do we ever ask ourselves what the motivation of sending that newsletter is? Yes, sometimes, and very minimally, are they subscriber newsletters. Normally, it's to create a relationship. It's to tell them, hey, we know you're still there. Ignored customers will go away without saying a word.
Bill and Joan opened for business online in 1998, And today, over 60% of their sales are from LaTravelStore.com. Their experience and knowledge of their customers, along with skills in photography and writing, have made it possible for them to compete with much larger companies. With every new launch of the site, there are more products, improved graphics, and better navigation. Since Bruce and I just live a few blocks from the store, we know that the Gaslamp Quarter and the surrounding neighborhoods are experiencing a tremendous transformation that will bring many good things to Joan and Bill. Their hard work in this historic business district brought joy in the beginning, and now they're even surprised at the success. Remember, to run and grow a business for decades, as have Joan and Bill, learn how and what to change and what should always stay the same. I'll see you next week.
Small Business School with Hattie Bryant.
If you want to learn more about starting, running, and growing a business, come to our website, smallbusinessschool.org. There's streaming video and interactive study guides.
The only way we can compete with big business is to be faster, smarter, and better. We are the engine of the American economy. We create the jobs. Small business is about big commitment. It's about sacrifice and struggle. But we do it because we say, if I don't do this, my life won't be complete.